Located in Nashville, Tennessee, the Lane Motor Museum has over 150 unique creations, and today's episode focuses on a one-of-a-kind prototype.
This is a 1932 Helicron. It's a propeller-powered vehicle. It's a prototype, one of a kind. The only thing that powers the car is the propeller is hooked directly to the engine in the front. Now, it seems kind of crazy maybe to have a propeller-powered car, but what you've got to remember, in the 1920s, people were fascinated with the aviation industry. Airplanes were just starting to become more common. People saw them. A lot of people got rides in them at that time. And there's some people, mostly in France, but also some in the United States, that believe propeller power was going to be the wave of the future, not just for airplanes, but for cars and bicycles and trains and everything. So there was a lot of people that built prototypes. And this car actually works fairly well back in the 20s if you have the correct conditions, which are a place where the roads are fairly flat. Of course, remember in the 20s there's probably a lot less traffic. There are no stop signs, there are no red lights. Because what a propeller-powered car does well is it cruises along at a nice constant speed. What it doesn't do well is it takes a while for it to get up to speed. It also doesn't do hills very well. Doesn't like to go around corners because of the extra drag, and it also has a tremendous amount of noise and air. So it really wouldn't be practical in places like Switzerland or places like Nashville, Tennessee, where it's hilly. Now this car, it really drives fairly well once you get used to it. The way you kind of drive it is when you take off, you just give it full throttle because it takes a lot to get it moving. Once you kind of get up to speed, whatever speed you want, 30 to 40 miles an hour, you kind of bring it back to half throttle and you cruise along. Now if you see a grade, obviously you try to speed up to get as much speed to get up the grade. You can usually get up pretty good grades if you have some momentum. What you can't do is if you stop in the middle of the grade, you can't get started again. The other thing about driving most of the propeller-powered cars is most of them steered in the rear. So you also got to remember that you're steering in the back. And the reason for that is most of the people that believed in this technology were airplane people. And back in that day, airplanes steered in the rear. Also, people ask about reverse on this car. Of course, it does not have reverse. And of course, I tell people reverse is right here. It's your tennis shoe. You have to get out and push it back. Another interesting thing about the car is most of the propeller-powered cars, and we have about 70 different prototypes we've been able to find throughout the years, but most of them had the throttle right here. And the reason for that was if you got up a hill and it wouldn't go all the way up the hill, you could have it wide open and you could get out and run next to it and push. And then as you got to the top of the hill, you could push the throttle back and jump back in. Obviously, you couldn't do that if it was a foot pedal.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. Join us again this Thursday for our next restoration segment. Here on Double Clutch,